Welcome back, Levelin Up Nation. This is Brigham Blackham, and I'm so stoked to have Chelsie Gonzales here with me. I want to make sure you guys can hear us, you can see us. We have an awesome experience today that we want to share with you. And I'm so excited because we're going to be talking about how Chelsie went from some grief in her life to having glory in not just her personal life, but also in her business. So excited to have her. So Chelsie, how are you doing today?
Excited to be here.
We're excited to be here. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Chelsie so that you guys can know how awesome she is. She is a mompreneur, someone that really understands that family comes first, but she is an amazing real estate investor. Been really putting a lot of energy and effort into her personal development, and recently had a wonderful experience being a limited partner on a large multifamily deal. She has a diverse background, and she's actually a military veteran. So thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Really appreciative of the amazing things that you did. You served during Iraqi freedom. So that's amazing. Tell us first a little bit of your story. I want to hear your background and why we say grief to glory. Let's get right into it.
Well, I grew up in the humble life of I was the youngest of four. I'm a twin. And growing up, we got the, hand-me-downs and everything. And I didn't think that I could go to college when I was younger. I thought that it was only for rich people. I thought when you grow up, you get on the housing list and that's your future. And you just work and you have a job and you live paycheck to paycheck, what they call hand to mouth, right? So I didn't see myself as having a promising future. I just accepted the life of struggle. And then I got in trouble all through high school. I wound up getting pregnant at 16. I thought I was grown because I didn't see, again, the future. I didn't think that you could be responsible and earn your way to college and earn yourself a better life. I didn't connect the two. And after I learned how to be a mom at 16, I got into a car accident with my daughter when she just barely turned 2, and I lost her in the car accident. And at the same time, I lived in Florida, and Hurricane Charlie ripped through my house, and I had nothing left of her or anywhere to go, any family. I was in abusive relationships, and I was the product of my environment. I embraced it and ran with it. And when I say that, I mean I sold drugs. I ran around with the wrong crowd, and my family they distanced themselves from me. They didn't want anything to do with me. After that, my twin, she didn't want to stay there with me anymore. She left and she wanted to go to the military. And out of sheer desperation, just to not be alone, I got up and I left with her. That actually was the best decision I could have ever made, because it changed my life so much. It taught me standards. It taught me what hard work would actually get you. I just didn't understand it at the time. They have a saying, embrace the suck, right?
Yeah.
So I took that and I just internalized everything. I didn't want to complain. I didn't want to tell anybody if my mindset wasn't right at the time. I just kept going. And my first job in the military was casualty assistance. So I found myself reliving and rehashing what I didn't want to hear for myself every day, and telling other parents and loved ones and children through what I wrote in my reports, the same thing every day. And it destroyed my mental capacity for years and years. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't think straight. I couldn't do anything. I was operating off of autopilot. So that took a long time of prayer. One, trusting that God doesn't put you through anything that you can't handle, and it's for a reason. I had to finally understand and accept that whatever we're going through it doesn't necessarily have to be for you. It could be for the people that are watching you. And when I thought about that, and I watched my kids that I now have, they told me I couldn't have kids for 10 years, and I finally had kids. And I watch how they respond and what their facial expressions are, how they move, how they act, and what that did for me was give me a whole new sense of why. Because I didn't have a why. I was spiraling. I didn't want to do anything but exist, and barely that. So when I got out of the military, I bought a house, a just in case house is what I call it,
Yeah.
because I wasn't married. I wound up getting a divorce from their father. I wasn't married, so I got out and I had a just in case house that taught me the value of real estate. I had somewhere to go, if anything, um, but more so, it gave me stability and finances. Income was always there. I didn't have to worry about the money. So learning about that, it took me another 7 years of just being at home, and I was still on so much medication. Um, Fun fact, this year, June 10th, I weaned myself finally off of all medication, all antidepressants, everything. And learning real estate, oddly enough, helped me stand up and come into my own. I didn't want to work for anybody else. I wanted to have my time back. I wanted to do nothing but spend my time with my kids. And your time is the only resource that we spend without knowing the balance on it. So real estate allowed me to have the conversations I always wanted to have, and I didn't think I belonged in the room. I could now confidently look someone in the eye and have the conversation. Period. I couldn't talk to people before. It has renewed my entire sense of life, and it's crazy
Wow.
that a job, or not even a job, an entrepreneurial pursuit could do that. But it did. My kids are proud of who they see instead of feeling sorry.
Yeah.
I never want to have them look at me like, I'm sorry, mom, that you have to go through stuff like this. I used to hear comments like that. I don't want to hear that ever again. Now they're actually proud of me, and they're not wondering why I'm taking away time anymore. I think through 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 our community, I've learned how to include them in my vision and in my dreams, so they know why I'm working now. They know what we're doing. I get to take them with me. I learned how important it is to have the full circle instead of just doing something for you. And so it's a little bit of my background.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing and being very vulnerable with us, because it is one thing to say I am an investor and you're talking only about the good things. It's another to say this is the muck that you had to go through, all of the grief, the difficulties, but that's part of who you are. And that's one of the things I love about hearing how transformative stories aren't just happening in other places. They're happening in our backyards. They're happening in everybody's lives. And we have to be open to see what's possible. When you look at your life and you see your 2-year-old daughter, that accident, that absolutely wrecked you for a long time. And then having to rehash it every single day because of your military experience, letting these moms and dads know, hey, your son or your daughter, they were a casualty, or all of these experiences. How did you process that in a way that allowed you to come out the other end healthy like you are now?
I didn't. I
Yeah.
honestly, I was a professional. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. Act like it didn't happen. And I stuffed it down so much. I actually gave myself memory issues. And you've heard of PTSD, but what
Mm-hmm.
nobody really knows about is something called CPTSD. It's complex PTSD. It's layered traumas. So I honestly, I became like Dory, like the fish, just keep swimming. I honestly, I acted like nothing happened, and I couldn't even have flashbacks. I just felt like the wave of uncontrollable everything inside. I, I didn't cope. I stuffed it away, and I literally forgot everything. The only thing I could remember was numbers. That's all I can remember. I can remember every number ever. I can remember my driver's license number from when I was 16 in Florida. I can remember my mom's socials, my sister's socials, my kids, everybody's. And it's like I have these random numbers rolling around in my head. So that's another thing that helped me with real estate, right? But I learned that what I was doing was teaching myself how to protect myself, right? I was teaching myself how to act and how to be in rooms, and I didn't know it. I didn't know that I was literally creating my own perfect storm. And I say all the time, like they say, there's footprints in the sand, right? And then when God carries you, there was two footprints, and now there's one. I don't have footprints. I have drag marks. There's drag marks in my sand, and it's okay because I'm still here. There's points where I just didn't want to be. But again, it's not always about you. It's about the people that are watching you. And if I didn't have my twin sister, I love my other sisters, but my twin makes them feel like cousins. So if I didn't have my twin sister, if I didn't have the two kids I have now, I don't know what that would look like. I don't know if I could see, the impact it does have on other people. And one thing that I left out of the story was at the same time that I had lost my daughter, my sister had lost hers. So that, and then I had a best friend at the time. She just, within the same 2 months, lost her 8-month-old son. And we just acted like it didn't happen. And that's how we just kept going. So there's, there's a lot I could say about that now. Yeah. I know that if I wouldn't have literally just turned and submitted everything, turned over to God, I would still be trying to carry it all by myself. And doing that and doing the work, reading a lot. I'm so dyslexic. I cannot read straight across. To save my soul, I do like this. So I found Audible, but reading books, specifically, The Body Keeps the Score. When I first read it, I was so mad. And then through the first half and the second half, I was in tears because I realized I'm looking to doctors to help me, and they're just doing their job because they have medicine to prescribe. So they're looking for keywords, and it's not helping. It's a Band-Aid. And if I just want that permanent Band-Aid on my life, then I could keep taking medicine and acting like it didn't happen. But if I want true healing and progress and being the example that I want to be for my kids and for the people, whoever is watching, I have no idea who all this is for, but I know it's for somebody. I know it's not for nothing. So if I wanted that, then I could keep taking the medicine. But if not, I had to do the work of getting off the medication, which was terrifying. Every day when I first started weaning myself off, I was like, oh my gosh, do I really need this? Am I really crazy? You go through that whole Rolodex of emotions. And it wasn't until I finally got everything out of my system that I realized, oh my gosh, I'm muting my genius. That was so hard for me to realize. And I was literally impeding my own thought processes. And I always thought I was meant to be so much more than what I was doing. I just couldn't connect the dots. And another book, Who, Not How, right? It doesn't necessarily you don't have to have a clear path forward. You don't have to know how you're going to do anything. You just need to have the right conversations with the right people. And I realized that that's what I was doing wrong the whole time. I was having the right conversations with people who couldn't hear me. I felt like I kept telling my story over and over and over again, inadvertently, to find somebody that could hear me. And nobody could hear me because they're spiraling in their own world. Yeah. So I was just looking in the wrong places. So finding real estate, finding people who had similar desires, similar drives to pursue their own dreams despite of what they're going through. That coupled with the memory that I did have, right, of remembering numbers, it I used that and spiritual growth to block out what noise I should have been blocking out instead of my own thoughts. So
that reminds me of when I was living in South Jordan. We had this tree. No, it was in Draper. Yes, it was in Draper. I had this tree in my backyard, and it grew up on a barbed wire fence line. And as it grew, the bark of one side got stripped off. And eventually, as it grew larger, that barbed wire choked the tree and it ended up dying. And it reminded me that as humans, we can move to different environments. But if we're planted in one place and we don't get off the fence and make a decision, where am I going with my life? Then it's just like growing up on that barbed wire fence. We get the cuts that strip that bark away, and that eventually killed the tree.
Mm-hmm.
We do not need to live on that fence. We can make a decision. This is something my mission president used to say. He said, a good decision made at the right time is better than the best decision made too late. So the very fact that you had these traumatic and dramatic experiences in your life, and then you moved to a different location, different environment, you changed that entirely for yourself going through the military, you were able to start to process those things and then making the decision to not just let your environment dictate who you are, but say, I'm going to be very intentional with who I surround myself with the books I bring into my life, with the mentors I'm connecting with. That decision, I've seen you over the last year, has dramatically, which is dramatic and radically. I like that. I can make up words. Everybody makes up words. Dramatically. I like that.
Creative.
Dramatically and radically altered your life. And that's amazing. So if you could pinpoint one piece of advice or encouragement for someone that has been going through a lot of grief, how can you help them be able to start to process their challenges?
Oh man, there's actually 3 things that come to mind. I heard in the beginning of this real estate pursuit, the hardest thing for entrepreneurs to do is just get started. Mm-hmm. Right? We make all the excuses in the world why it's too hard or have this going on and this going on. And I made a commitment, and it just happened to be on New Year's. My New Year's resolution was just to show up. I was terrified to have a conversation with people because I thought they could see through me. And I just committed to showing up. I didn't go to the store by myself. Like, I didn't go anywhere by myself. If I wanted to go outside and walk, I wouldn't go if nobody would go with me. So I just made that commitment to show up. And just by showing up, you see other people talk to you, other acts of kindness, random acts of kindness. And it slowly chips you out of that shell. So that's 1. 2 is I heard from a conference that I attended online, that if you're in your feelings and you're super emotional or you're super stressed out, it's because your schedule isn't full enough. You have white space on your schedule. Mm. So I adopted the attitude of yes, and I filled up my schedule. I don't have any free time that I don't map out and schedule for my kids or for my family. Other than that, my schedule is completely full. I don't allow myself to sit down and think, because the second you sit down and think, that spiral starts to happen and you start layering it on top. Mm-hmm. And anxiety is literally thinking about future events that could or could not happen. So I stole that time back. And the last one, the third one, is definitely finding the right people to talk to. A lot of times when you talk to family, they like you just the way you are, right? Stay the way you are, don't change. So any kind of change, they're going to tell you, they're going to warn you because they don't want you to get hurt. They're trying to protect you. So finding the right people to talk to, finding your circle, finding your tribe, the people who want to push you and not pull you back, or that misery loves company adage, cut those people out. Now, you don't have to throw them away, but definitely put them to the side and minimize contact with them until you fix your mindset. No, and I could tell you one more. Reading the right things, and not the not the ones that will pull you backward. Reading books like The Body Keeps the Score, and Who Not How. Just those in particular I can think of right now. That changed my mindset. There's psycho-spiritual books, right? There's a lot that you could do to just break yourself away from what you thought was normal, but it's learned trauma responses. And trauma is a loss of control. That's all it is. It's you experiencing a loss of control, no matter what situation it is. And you can start to take control back just by fixing your calendar, talking to the right people, and fixing your mindset. But that it all starts with just getting started. You have to make that commitment and know why you're doing it. If you don't know why you're doing something, you're not going to stick with it. So
that's great pieces of advice. When you look at your life as a whole, every single one of us have these turning points where we almost make an about face. Like if you look at the military, you're turning back around. And it comes down to this. If you are focused on the right turning points, those turning points will be able to allow you to progress and see them for what they are. You've had multiple turning points in your life. Would you mind sharing how this real estate turning point for you has forced you to look forward while being very present?
Yes. Real estate is a game of planting seeds. So I bought my first rental property in 2015. That's almost 10 years ago. So I realized very quickly after I learned velocity banking and paid it off, right? And then I put a new mortgage on it. I bought it for 185 and pulled out 205. So that alone let me realize what planting a seed will do. So my financial future looks a lot different now. I think you mentioned I was a limited partner in the 66 units in Clarksville. But after that, what I also did was I am a general partner now on 70 units in Ohio with a team that these teams I picked because I wanted to grow with them. I seen and recognized the leverage that they talk about so much in the entrepreneurial communities. This is not a game that you play on your own. Mm-hmm. So leveraging other people's time, energy, money, and resources helps me jump leaps and bounds. And what that does for the future is show my kids what's possible. They get to see you don't have to necessarily have a job. You can be whatever it is that you want to be, but you don't have to have a job. You don't have to have somebody managing your time for you. And I also learned about velocity banking, infinite banking, should I say, also. And that time, learning about the Rockefeller strategies, how they made their family's legacy known to the world. And that is what I'm learning and I'm creating. So I think that's the best thing ever about it.
So here's what I'm hearing. Being very conscientious with who you associate with, and then the information that you take in, it is so essential to be able to find out what you can do in your life by associating with those that are living, breathing proof that what your dreams are possible. Other people that have done it, you absolutely can connect with them. One of my favorite expressions, this is something that I learned from Scott Rowe, and you're familiar with him. He said, you can either have a job or you can do a job. And as entrepreneurs, we get to do a job. We get to share our story. We get to build our voice on stage in whatever part of our life we're in. And as we do that job consistently, and we add value, solving problems, we're able to help a lot of people. So Chelsie, when you look at not just infinite banking and all these different things, you're looking at all the different things that you're learning. What is one thing that you're like, this is the thing that I'm focusing on right now? If you could say not all these other elements, what's the one thing that you are like laser focused on becoming?
I want to help people create their own legacy.
Mm.
And real estate, infinite banking, all that, these are tools.
Yep.
These are tools that I'm using to help create that and facilitate that for people that, again, couldn't see themselves in a life in the future, or didn't think that they were able to do what they see so many other people doing. So yes, that is its legacy.
Legacy. I love the word legacy. We have a comment from Gilbert. He says, "Hey, I love it. You are such an amazing and inspirational person. Thank you, Gilbert. You're the best. You're the best, brother." One of the things
Thank you.
that I love about you, Chelsie, is your tenacity for learning and showing up. You said, "Hey, my goal is to just show up." You have to show up to blow up. I've heard that from Rob Sperry. I've heard it from so many different people. Why has showing up with the right attitude and the right focus been so instrumental for you, Chelsie?
I heard from reading a documentary, I think it was Elon Musk's documentary. He said, when you're walking through fire, keep going. And then I heard from somebody else, don't quit a loser, quit a winner. So if you're ever going to quit, don't quit because you're lost or you're losing or you're not succeeding. Success leaves clues, and it's a proof of a pattern. So you have to create a pattern. Nothing comes easy, but you also are the company you keep. So if you stay in the room, stay around like-minded, or the people you want to think like, want to be like, then you will eventually get there, as long as you don't quit. So showing up just is building upon building upon building. And as long as you don't quit a loser, and you keep going, keep walking through that fire. And eventually, after the fire, it's all green, right?
Yeah.
It just takes away what was never meant to be there. So
That's beautiful. Here's another idea that I think we can go off of and play with your story. The idea of glory. It's not just in other people's eyes looking at your life. When you think of glory, this is something in military, like, oh, I want glory. I want to be able to be seen as a hero. What does that look like for you, Chelsie? That type of legacy. I want to hear what glory and honor look like for you.
well, glory and honor are two separate things.
That's true.
Very separate. And glory is never something you're chasing.
Mm-hmm.
I never chase glory. If you ask anybody who wins an award or something, especially from the military, it's never something that you initially thought that you wanted to do. No selfless service. It wasn't that. It was because you felt like an inner burn to do something. It's you already feel that duty to help your brothers and your sisters, people left and right of you. So it's never the chasing of glory. The pride and everything that comes after it is because you are able to rise to a challenge. So this showing up and this everything it's molding me to be able to help when I feel like I need to help. And without molding myself for the process, I will be a bystander and helpless. That's the goal. I don't want to ever be helpless. Suffering through trauma makes you helpless. I don't want to be helpless. I want to be able to do something and act and help the people who want to be helped. So that's the goal, to be able to act when you need to, how you want to.
Beautiful. You said legacy was something that's huge for you. What is the legacy that you want others to look to when they say, oh, Chelsie, she's awesome. This is why. What's your legacy you want to build?
You know, all through college, I kept asking people, how do you talk professional? I was so embarrassed. Asking them that. And they were like, really? You just come to school and you learn. And I'm like, my diction was anything but professional at the time. And I grew up in the hood. So none of that. It didn't sound like the people that I wanted to be around. So the legacy that I want to leave is that it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter your circumstances. If you want it, you can do it. You just have to have the right mindset about it. And you have to have God first in your life, whatever it is that you believe in. that's first. You can't do it by yourself. This is not something that you can say, I'll just do me. I think that's the most hurt you could ever be, is when you say, I'll just do me. Because life is not about being alone. We are not creatures that were made to be alone. So the legacy that I want to leave is that it doesn't matter if you're a female, it doesn't matter if you're a minority, it doesn't matter if you came from poverty. If you want to do something, it is so possible. And there are people that are willing to help you. Using leverage is not for the rich only. It's for anybody. Just get in the right circles and adopt their attitude of gratitude and stick with it. So the legacy I want to build is that anything is possible if you have God in your life and you put your mindset to it.
Beautiful. Now, I know you've written a book. I've got it right here. She was the co-author of Real Women in Real Estate. She was in chapter 13, if I remember right. One of the things that I liked about this was we get a little bit more depth about your story. We get to hear the pain, but also the pleasure side, the excitingness of what happens when you focus your energies in the right place. So let's talk about, how have you been promoting yourself? How have you been stepping into your story and this new role as an author, not just an entrepreneur? Let's hear a little bit of that experience.
So that was the precursor to so much more. That book it's leading to the next 3 years of stages already lined up. I am now in a sisterhood of over 70 women who also share their stories. And I thought I was alone. And just writing that, I couldn't sleep for weeks because I was scared to tell anybody my story. I didn't want to be seen as the damsel in distress. But I also realized after my military service that keeping quiet will make people think that there's just, that you're just whatever. They don't understand you, and if you want people to understand and show you the same empathy that you show them, you got to open up. So that book opened a lot more doors for me. I'm writing my own book right now. It should be completed in February. I am launching my own brand. I am speaking to more people than I ever thought possible when I couldn't have one conversation and look anybody in the eye. That one book, being a co-author, it opened so many doors. So more to come.
Wonderful. Now, I know a lot of authors, even though they have amazing expertise, they get crippling fear sharing their story. How did you overcome that fear? How did you overcome your stage fright?
Because it's not for me. If it's for you, you'll stop yourself every time. It's not for me. It's because my little girl is not going to think that it's not possible. Somebody has to show her. And you looking at other people, you just make all the excuses in the world. Oh, that's them. No, I have to show my kids. So it's not for me. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep. I was scared to even hit send. I was scared to have an interview afterward for the book launch. And my voice was shaking. I was almost in tears. I was terrified to do it. But the realization of my why, other people showing up. I told you this. Your willingness to be seen makes it easier for me to open my mouth. So I'm imagining if people like you or people like other people in this community, I'll say that, if they would have never opened their mouth and had the willingness to be seen, I would have kept mine shut. So understanding that somebody will read this, somebody it will resonate with. It's like dolphins, they hear us their own sonar waves, right? And it makes them, just hearing your frequency, it will cut through all the rest of the noise. So somebody will see this, and just from my willingness to open my mouth, it could change their entire existence. And breaking your family curses, right? It starts with that one different thought process. So that's how.
being a pioneer in another way to say that. Were you the first person in your, I want to say, your neighborhood to write a book and to be able to put yourself out there in this way?
Definitely the first person in my immediate family. And I say that as not just my kids now, but my sisters. My sister's sister-in-law has a book, and I thought that was the most amazing thing. And for the last 10 years, I couldn't understand, how do you do that, And again, I didn't know how any of this was going to happen. I just knew that I prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed for things to be dramatically different. And I swear I would do anything to do it. So this is just something that I was challenged with, I'm going to say. And if you just keep accepting the challenges and realize it's all a growth process, anything is possible. Like, anything is possible. I was scared that somebody was going to take what I had. And that's kind of how all this started with the multifamily, actually. And the infinite bank. I learned that the two things you can't take away or you can't break in this country are partnerships and life insurance. Like, those are exempt from like turnovers and things like that. So that's what I kind of went after. And all of this has helped me fulfill my purpose in not letting anything happen to what I'm building for my kids. So
Beautiful. Well, you've been able to share some amazing insights, not just how to overcome trauma, but how to triumph over a lot of the challenges that you've had, stepping into the glory of this is who I am and being willing to share your experiences and not doing it for glory, but to be able to accept the recognition as it comes. I think you have shared exactly what it takes to be a great mompreneur and a great entrepreneur, a wonderful mindset now that you've developed over the last couple of years. I'm so grateful for this opportunity to connect with you. Any question that I didn't ask you that you're like, man, I wish you would have asked this. I want to hear what that is.
yes. One. So my goals last year, 2 years ago now, was just to show up. I wish you would have asked how my goals evolved and changed.
Ooh, let's hear it. How did your goals evolve and change?
So I got a calendar, right? Because one that I could hold instead of just online for taxes, right? And I flipped to the back of the year and I wrote on January 1st for 2025 my goals of how many units did I have and how much debt did I have. And that was the only two goals I had for this year. Initially, the first goal I had was just to show up. So after growing through the process, I learned that it's not about what you're doing, but it's about who you're helping along the way. So my goals are evolving and including who I'm helping along the way. What am I doing with the information that I'm learning? Not just trying to help me. So my new goals involve looking back and reassessing how my 2024 went, what I've done with the information that I'm gaining, and how I plan to help more people in the future, not just where I'm at financially.
Beautiful. That's going deeper with your goals. And when they are no longer just a number, they're attached to people. And there's a deeper meaning. Suddenly there is a why behind the goal. And then it becomes a standard. This is something that I talk about in my coaching practice, that when you take a goal and you leave it a goal, you're a goal getter. You're going to go figure it out. But there's a difference between going after a goal and setting a standard and consistently hitting that standard. Hitting your minimums, hitting your standards will eventually make it so anything you have that you would like will be able to come to fruition, because we have to be before we can do, and we have to do before we can have. Having's just a byproduct of who we are and what we do. And part of that is how we associate with people. So thank you for being an example. And thank you for sharing that it's not just about the money. So many people get so tied up, like, I just want to make the money. Tell us one last thing. What is one piece of advice that you would give young Chelsie that would make all the difference?
Young Chelsie thought there was something wrong with her. But I learned that if we're all made in God's image, there's nothing wrong with God, so there's nothing wrong with you. There's something wrong with your mindset and your strategy. These are learned traits that you can unlearn. I thought it was a life sentence. So I would tell her to block out the people that want to keep you small and just grow and trust God, because there's nothing wrong with me. There was never anything wrong with me. I was learning how to be abusive to myself, and I was accepting that, and I accepted anything that came with it because I just wanted to be with people. I didn't want to be alone. So that's my one piece of advice.
I love that. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I've had a phenomenal experience with you over the last couple of years, seeing you blossom into this amazing investor. I remember when I first met you, you didn't used to have your camera on. You were one of those people that would hide behind this. You would go like that and just hide behind the lens cap. But after a few weeks and a lot of coaxing from me saying, hey, come out on camera, you eventually would come out on camera, even if kids were around, and you'd participate and participate and participate and show up consistently. And every single time you do, you got a little bit more articulate, a little bit more confident. And now look at you. I'm so impressed with who you've become and who you're becoming, because none of us are done, guys. We absolutely have the opportunity to continually progress. The reason why I call this podcast Levelin Up is because we are always looking for that next level. We're never done. Be very grateful for what you have, but not with who you are yet. Continually get better. All of us can get better. Thank you so much, Chelsie, for being here. Thank you for sharing your insights. How can people find your book and what you're doing next?
Well, my book, you can actually look up my name on Amazon and find it. It's a trilogy. So there's 3 volumes, and I've had the opportunity to try to explain it other ways. And I found that the easiest way to find the one I'm in is just to look up my name on Amazon. If you want to follow along and see what I'm up to and what I'm doing, though, you can follow me on Facebook or on Instagram. Facebook, my name is Chelsie Sloan, but it's easier if you find me on Instagram at ChelseaG_16.
Perfect. All right. Well,
so much more to come.
So much more. I'm so excited for you. You are an amazing entrepreneur, wonderful example, great success story. Continue to get your story out there, share it with that love and affection and vulnerability. Wonderful example of what's possible when you put your mind to work and you get in the right spaces. Put yourself in the right places and things are going to change. So thanks so much, guys. Have a wonderful rest of your day and keep leveling up your life.